Are you like most sales and other professionals who want to grow their wealth faster than what they are currently doing through their company 401k, even with that company match, the stock market, or just plain saving money? Would you sleep better at night if you had the financial freedom to be job optional in just 3 to 5 years through investing in real assets? Maybe you don't want to stop working, but wouldn't it be cool if you could retire a decade earlier than most? And do the traveling you and your family have planned for years while you're still young and can enjoy it? Let's face it, most busy professionals don't have the time or desire to take on more work outside of their W-2 to grow their wealth. On The Wealth Flow, each week we share the stories, the investments, and take a deep dive into the various asset classes that can deliver that accelerated growth to your portfolio passively. That's right. No extra work for you. Instead, we'll put your money to work. Learn what the 95% aren't talking about and join the top 5% of earners today on The Wealth Flow.
All right, welcome to The Wealth Flow. My guest today is Sam Wilson. Sam, he has a weekly podcast that's rated in the top 1% worldwide, has 40,000 monthly downloads, and boasts nearly 800 episodes with industry influencers. He has been an active investor for more than a decade in self-storage, in parking, multifamily apartments, single-family homes, RV resorts, and laundromats. So, Sam, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Keith. Certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, I can't wait to dive into some of these different asset classes and just kind of hear your perspective on them. But if we could maybe start with, where you grew up and what eventually led you to real estate investing.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana. I love my family up there. I hate the Midwest, though. Sorry, Midwesterners. The weather is just not for me. I've been home several times here in the last couple months for family reasons. And every time I go back, I'm like, oh, man, it's like 40 and gray. So I moved south, which is great because my windows are open. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee now with my wife and 3 kids. And my windows are open in the office today and it's sunny outside. So it's I'll get my paybacks come July, though, when it's hot here. Either way, love where we are now in life. What was your other questions there, Keith? I'm sorry. I probably started rambling on.
No, that's okay. And that's good to know. And I'm down in San Antonio, so the weather here is actually been amazingly nice as of recent. So I think we'll get some more cold weather before the end of the winter, but it has been fairly mild so far. So.
Right. Man, I always say the southern summers are northern winters. Like come summertime, the only thing we want to do is be inside with the AC on because it's just so stinking hot. Whereas, obviously in the winter, it's like, all we do is be inside and turn the heat on. So it's the way it is. But no, I love the state of Texas as well. That's a good time.
Yeah. And so one of the questions I was asking is just, what eventually led you to real estate investing? Is that what you started your adult career with, or what? How'd you get into it?
I don't know what a career is. We'll just start there. Okay. I always say that falling into real estate is what it was just the good Lord having mercy on an idiot. I owned a business in Indianapolis. We sold that, and that was my exit out of the state. We said, all right, we're leaving Indiana. And I headed south. I had no idea what to do. I was 30 years old at the time, sold that company, and I had a pocket full of money and time on my hands. And I had no idea what to do next in life. I was categorically unemployable. 30-year-old male with no college education that's only worked for himself, doesn't scream, hire me by anybody else. Like, oh, what have you done? I've worked for yourself. Okay, so you're going to be an independent pain in the butt. Got it. Never mind. Like, that's pretty much the way it went out. And so I fell into real estate about a year after leaving Indiana. We ended up buying a foreclosure. This is back in 2013. Bought a foreclosure when you can still buy foreclosures and on the courthouse steps. And I made a pile of money on it. And I just said, hey, man, there's something to this. And just kept doing it. And so it has been every iteration of real estate really since then. All the things you mentioned for better and probably for worse. that we've gotten into over the years. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. And I guess I can't hardly say it or believe I'm saying it now. It's been 11 years since I
Wow.
started real
Okay.
estate. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, that's great. So how long did you stay in the single family space in buying? And you're right, things have changed, right? I mean, there was a time there before the show we were just talking about 2008 and some of my challenges during that time. But back then I was a full-time broker, and man, there were tons of foreclosures coming through. It just was huge, but eventually that kind of stabilized a bit, and it's not quite the same. But tell us a little bit about how long you stayed in that.
5, almost 6 years is how long I stayed in single family. And you're right. We went from oftentimes being the only bidder at the auctions. So I'd show up to these auctions and it's me. So I mean, the person be there reading it here in Tennessee. They read them on the courthouse steps. Every state might be different, but they'd read them on the courthouse steps, and I'd be the only one standing there. And so I'd win bids for $1 over. They'd say the opening bid, and I'd say $1 over, and they say once, twice sold. Okay, here it is, you. And I'd hand them the money, and off we'd go. I
Nice.
mean, it was brainless investing. Those times started to change when all of a sudden, 2017, people started showing up that I didn't know from out of counties. People started traveling from different counties. I started traveling to different county auctions, around the state. I started traveling many hours to different county auctions. So I'm like, okay, if I'm now on the hunt, so is everyone else that's figuring this business out. And so by 2018, I said, hey, we're going to pump the brakes on this business. We did a bunch of houses in 2018 and then really just backed off at that point. And I said, man, there's got to, because that's what I thought. And clearly my crystal ball was broken, but I thought, man, the market is overheated. I thought, hey, there's too many people. Margins are getting compressed. I had no idea that prices from 2018 to 2022 were just about to go up by about 100%. But again, I would have retired if I'd just held on to everything I owned back in 2018, but that's neither here nor there. That's when I decided to make my exit out of single family and move into other asset classes.
Okay. And with the single family, were you flipping those? Were you like just doing improvements and then putting them back on the market? Or were you holding on to any of them as long-term rental or?
All the above. We had a portfolio of long-term rentals. We were flipping some. We were selling. I still own some to this day that are sold on, long-term notes. So, I mean, I still get deposits in my bank accounts every month from stuff that I sold 6-7 years ago. But yeah, that's it. We really did everything. The primary strategy though was fix and flip, because that's what, and again, this will tell you how my thinking has changed. Because back then I'd look at it, I'd say, hey, look, man, I can make 50 grand on a house, right? Okay, we're going to flip it. I can make 50 grand. Our typical turn time from close at the courthouse or buy at the courthouse steps to remodeled and resold was under 120 days. So,
Nice.
And I figured that, hey, man, yeah, we were burning and turning. And I figured out that, hey, if I can make 50 grand in that time frame, and it's going to take me, in my own small thinking, had assumed that long-term single-family rentals were the only really exit you could do with a single-family home. Like, okay, I'm going to rent this out. Well, I'm going to rent it out in the Memphis, Tennessee market. What am I going to make? $200-$400 a month? I'm like, okay, so your potential profit, let's call it on the high side, even $500 a month. Let's say that's $6,000 a year. I'm like, well, my break-even point is more than 8 years before I even recover that 50 grand back. So why not 50 grand a day is worth 50 grand a day. 50 grand in 8 years might be worth 30 grand. I'm like, well, that's
Right.
this time value of money. Just doesn't make any sense. I'm like, so why ever hold them? My thinking now today is like, well, I'll tell you why you hold them. 1, you hold them for appreciation. 2, you hold them for the cash flow. If I'd have held everything I flipped, again, I probably wouldn't be working today. But that is just a mistake, kind of licks you take along the way where you're like, you know what, $500 a month may not matter, but 500 times 60 starts to matter every single month.
Right.
That
No, for sure.
becomes meaningful income. And I don't need to live large. I just need to live enough. So it's kind of funny how those things change. But that was what I did, was primarily fix and flip.
Okay. Yeah, and I've had many of the same experiences where, I keep looking back at properties. I had one a small mobile home park that we bought and flipped it and, made a lot of money on it, but now we don't get the cash flow from it, So it's I got a big chunk of money that I could invest in something else. And obviously we're in the process of replacing that cash flow, but there's something to be said about just holding on. So what, Sam, where'd you go? Go ahead.
And that's the cash. I mean, I'm an idiot for not paying attention earlier. Like you read Robert Kiyosaki, you read all these people who are like, buy for cash flow, buy for cash flow. And I'm like, taking notes and I'm like, I disagree entirely. And 10 years later, like, oh, he was a genius. What's wrong with me? Why didn't I pay
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Plus the tax. I mean, the tax implications of flipping versus. There's just there's so many things there. But so when you left single family, what did you get into from there?
yeah, and that's where this kind of string of different commercial assets that we've played around with comes into play. We started buying parking in 2019, got out in 2020 from those holdings right before the crash, which was great, right before COVID, which was great. So we made a bunch of money in parking. And then, from that point, I had to retool everything we were doing because I've been doing single family, then started doing parking. Parking got killed during COVID.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You think ball games, offices, night and weekend traffic, central business districts. All the places that people were paying for parking was dead for about 12 to 18 months. I'm like, okay, well, I got to find something else to do. So then started raising capital and investing with other sponsors around the country in self-storage, in multifamily, in RV parks, in land, so we did a whole bunch of different things. And none of those was only one of those assets. Am I one of the operators on? The rest of them, we were just bringing capital to those deals, which is for better or for worse. It was fine for a season. I also at the same time was buying laundromats on my own, which is another thing or the only thing really that I spend probably 90% of my waking time on or waking day on right now is working on a laundry business, just because it's a fantastic business to be in. So over those next 2 or 3 years, all the way until 2023, I just raised capital for other people and kind of put into their deals. And that was, it was a couple year run, and it served us well, learned a lot, but none of those asset classes were anything that I ever said, I want to be the operator in that. I never found multifamily to be something I'm like, I'd love to go out, raise a bunch of money, take down, own and run multifamily. It just never spoke to me. So I didn't do it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then what as far as the RV parks, where were you guys investing in those? That's one that is always seems to be attractive, more of a destination type thing. If you got a great RV park and a great destination, it's great excuse to have to go and visit it from time to time. But where were you guys investing?
That's right. Yeah, we've got one in Missouri, one in Southern Indiana, and one in Oklahoma. So nowhere in particular it's like, oh my gosh, this is the place. Each RV park that we are either partners on and or the one that I am an operating partner on, they all have their own independent attractions. So it's like, hey, why do people come? That's it. What's the demand driver for a particular RV park? One is on a lake. It's like a 55,000 acre fishing lake. There's only 5 marinas and 5 RV marinas / parks on the entire 55,000 acre lake. So we own one of the 5, and it's just a great. The place is just an incredible fishing reservoir, and that place packs out. So there's your attraction there. A marina is a entirely different business, but it's also part of the RV park we bought. So that's a demand driver there. The next one we own is right outside of Cincinnati, so it's within 30 minutes of Cincinnati. There's all the river boats up and down the Ohio rivers. People come and gamble. They come bring their families. They go to Cincinnati for whatever they're going to do in Cincinnati. So that's kind of the driver there. The one in Oklahoma is more of a man camp, not necessarily tied to one industry in particular, but it's a much longer term RV park. People, that's the majority of our guests there are long-term guests. And so they're there to work at the various industries in the area, from rock quarries to electric generation facilities to, again, casinos in the area. You name it. There's a lot of different things that will drive what makes or breaks an RV park. Mm-hmm. And to your point, that's really it. So anytime you're looking at RV parks, that's what I'd say is find out why people are staying there. And, it's probably going to vary because there's every type, shape, and size of RV park out there.
For sure. There definitely is. What about, and it may vary if sounds like you're play kind of an operating role with at least one of those. But do you know what type of software is typically used for property management when it comes to RV parks?
There's 100 different products out there that you can use. Depends on what your park is. One thing that we're figuring out on one of our parks is that we've been using CampSpot, And that park has more of a longer term tenant base. So something even in our calls in the last 7 days, we're like, we really need to get off a camp spot because I can't remember the next one we're going to. But there's another product out there. I don't remember the name of it, but there's lots of different management softwares. In our case, the long-term tenant needs a different software to go along with it that caters to that longer term stay versus a more transient park, which might want to work off a camp spot. So there's pluses and minuses. I think another one's like, I can't remember, RSM maybe, but I don't know. Anyway, lots of options out there.
For sure. Yeah, I was just curious. And then what about, so tell me a little bit about the laundromats. You mentioned that you had kind of been doing those on your own, and are these used established laundromats, or are you developing some, or tell me a little bit about how you got into that.
I got into laundromats in 2018. Again, we're still doing houses, still looking at commercial asset classes, and I bought one on a whim. I needed something washed. I took it to the laundry. I had to get on my phone actually and find the closest laundromat because I don't frequent laundromats. And I walked in and the place was disgusting. Lights hanging down from the ceiling, like cockroaches going everywhere. Half the equipment said out of order on it. And, some raspy voiced attendant behind the counter was there. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm lost. I'm like, which machine do I use? And she's like, that one over there. I'm like, okay. So I went and did it. I'm like looking around this place, like, this is foul. It was foul. And I walk up to the lady. I'm like, hey, you have any idea who owns this place? And kind of follow up question to that is, any idea if they'd want to sell it? Because in my mind, I'm thinking this looks just like another housing flip. Like we bought foreclosures. Yeah. I'm used to walking houses knee deep in trash and turning them into something that people will pay a lot of money for. So I go, I could probably do the same thing with this place. Why not? And she's like, I don't know, but here's his phone number. And I called him, and 3 weeks later, we owned a laundromat. That's the end of the, how to find a laundromat story. Just walk in and ask. So 3 weeks later, we own a laundromat, and we got into the business, and I didn't think much of it. We retooled the store slowly but surely. We made a lot of mistakes on that first store that we don't make now, but retooled it, got into it. I put 2.5 times the amount of money into the store that I thought I was going to on my projections. And all of a sudden COVID hit in 2020. And not only did we do well, we did fantastic. And our revenue just kept climbing up and to the right. And we're like, wait, I'm on to something. But again, I'm a slow learner, Keith. I really am. And so it took me until the end of 22. And I'm looking around, I'm like, this little laundromat I've got going here that I don't work at that much. We've got great staff, great management in place. It just keeps cranking it out. And it costs me very little in the way of time. And it's a phenomenal return on my investment. The average laundromat returns 25 to 35% annually. So I'm going, all right, so we're killing it with one. Why don't I own 10 of these or 20 or more? Like, why don't I go out and find more laundromats that look just like this one did and turn it around? And so that's really what we did in 2023. We added 1, 2, 3 more stores and bought a parcel of land for a development in an outlying city. And so really just buying as many laundromats as we can and just keep repeating that model. I got numbers in today from our second store that we bought last January, and it's the same story. Just up and to the right. And we're not doing anything magical. We're bringing brand new product, brand new stores, completely refurbished, new payment systems, new access, employees, drop-off laundry. We integrate with delivery services like DoorDash and Uber. We do tons of drop-off laundry. We just make the whole customer experience brand new. We sink a ton of money into these stores, but again, the return on investment is just there. So, it's kind of a combination of real estate plus business, but probably more in the business category than the real estate category. But that's really where our primary focus is right now. And I don't see us going anywhere on that.
Yeah. So it's been a while since I've been to a laundromat as well. But, back when I had gone and had to go on a regular basis, you go in, there's a change machine, you put $1, $20 in, whatever, and it converts it to quarters. And it's kind of the little push deal. Is that what you're seeing now? Is it pretty much the same, or is there an electronic way to pay?
Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot. And that's one of the things we look for. I was looking at a store last week and I walked in and I'm like, this is the ideal store for us to buy. It's all these, what they call top loader washing machines. They look like the one you'd have at home where the lid flips up and you can put a single load of laundry and you put your 8 quarters in and push the slide forward. which invariably gets jammed and stops working. And, those machines break down about once every 3 days. And that's kind of what we're looking for, is that exact model of store that doesn't have today's payment systems in them. So, I mean, yeah, and people are afraid to do it. It's still, you go to even the laundromat forums on Facebook. I mean, it's still a heated debate of people who are like, quarters all day, never going away from my quarters, because they'll see something go down, like a payment system or a credit card payment system will go down, which negatively affects us. I'd say
Right.
probably 30, 40% of our payments now are via credit card. And they'll see that go down and be like, yeah, my quarters are never going to die. And I'm like, well, probably not, but you also can never get away from that store. I go to my stores now because I should, not because I have to.
Right.
And so and that's because we've integrated. I mean, you can pay by phone, you can pay by our loyalty cards, you can pay by credit card, you can pay by app, you can pay by, Apple Pay. That wasn't that app, but Apple Pay. I mean, there's all these different ways that we integrate, so people can then get loyalty points for how much they spend on their card. They get rewarded. I mean, it's just a way to build customer retention that a $20 bill and 80 quarters doesn't quite do. So there's only one of our stores that still takes quarters. And it's still a hybrid store where it takes quarters and all electronic forms of payment. But that's one of the first things we do, is integrate, all brand, even EBT. I mean, that's something else we can take now with digital payment methods, which for those of you that don't know, EBT is I don't even know how you qualify for EBT, but whatever it is, we'll take it. So it's some government assistance program, and spend it on their laundry. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, we'll integrate and take that too. So all that said, yeah, we definitely have changed the way that people pay for and do laundry.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's awesome. And I love the loyalty card factor. I've got a friend of mine who is into car washes. And one of the things that he's doing with his car washes is they do tokens instead of quarters popping out, it's tokens. Well, if they don't use all the tokens, that kind of drives the customer to come back the next time to wash the car at the same place. So all that stuff sounds pretty neat. You mentioned DoorDash. Tell me a little bit about that. Are they actually doing delivery of laundry and pickup of laundry?
Yep. Sure enough, same way you do food. Our point of sale provider, which I don't integrate, I don't interface directly with DoorDash, but of course we pay a point of sale provider that runs all of our terminals and everything else. And so you get online, you order laundry, you can select DoorDash. DoorDash will come and pick it up. They do all the ferrying.
Mm-hmm.
So on new stores for us, if we want to integrate delivery laundry without going to the expense of bringing in-house drivers on board, we can just turn on DoorDash, which is great. And I'm amazed, to be honest with you, Keith, the number, like I look at it and I go, holy smokes, that's expensive. Just because it is, and we help kind of offset some of the DoorDash fees. But I still look at it and I go, man, like that's a lot of money to spend on getting your laundry done. I'm not sure I could afford my own services, but people do it. I mean, people do it a lot. They're like, I'm constantly amazed when I look back at our reports. I'm like, that's a lot of DoorDash laundry that was picked up and delivered to our stores. Okay, hey, you know what? It's working. So I'm not going to get in the way of it. But yeah, certainly is a feature, and that's again something else that a lot of people aren't willing to do just because it's new.
Yeah, no, that's pretty neat. And I imagine that lighting and that kind of thing kind of plays a role in it. I think of some of the places that I have after I got a divorce, some of the places that I've had to go and do laundry at, and it was I didn't mind going because I was a guy, but I couldn't imagine, everybody there was comfortable. Some of them don't have adequate lighting and just kind of a dark, scary place.
It absolutely is. I always say that today's laundromats, like when you walk in, you're afraid of catching a disease or getting stabbed. I mean, like those are the two things that come to mind when you think of laundromat. And so we're working really hard, and it's the industry, with myself and a lot of other operators, is really changing. I think the way that laundry is done, like that experience, that end user experience. I compare it to a gas station in the 80s. If you were around in the 80s, like you have to remember going to the gas. Maybe I don't know where you're based out of. I still think of these, in certain places of the country, but you go to the gas station and like there's nothing. You walk inside and there might be some motor oil and a pot of coffee that's been on for 3 days that smells like burnt coffee, and then they hand you some nasty key and they say the bathroom's outside, which hasn't been cleaned in a decade. And you're like, oh my gosh, like this was an awful experience. You go into gas stations today. There's a brand of gas stations around. You might have them down in Texas called Circle K. Have you seen these?
Yeah.
Like a Circle K gas station is like top notch. Even to the point where I was driving back and forth in Indiana this last week, and I discovered that they do fresh ground coffee at the automated coffee machines all day long. So it's no longer gas station coffee. I'm like, oh man, like this is the experience. Aisles and aisles of prepackaged refrigerated food, any drink you could want in the world. The place is spotless. The gas stations work. You pay with anything. I'm like, laundromats are what gas stations were in the 80s. And I think it's going to undergo kind of that revolution where like people's expectations change. And that's happening. That certainly is happening. But yeah, that's one of the things we do at our stores is, we're always staffed. It's a big deal to walk in and have somebody in a uniform shirt saying, hi, how are you? The lights, everything's clean. The place is spotless. We're meticulous about how clean we keep the stores, well lit. The lights never go off. It's that sort of experience that people are appreciating. So yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
That's great. When you're buying an existing one and it's got some of the coin operated with the slide that we talked about, are you able to put the new types of payment systems on those older machines, or is it just better to just clean it out and get a brand new machine?
You could potentially do that, but no, we just got the store. And that was one of the things we did as a mistake. I call it a mistake. It wasn't a mistake because it's worked out just fine, but I think we could have done better on our first location. But I just didn't have the requisite experience to know that it was okay to go put $500,000 or $700,000 into equipment into a single store. Like I just didn't have the courage to do that because it's still a lot of money to me. But now I understand what the return profiles look like. It's like, okay, well, that's kind of just what you have to do. But then I did it piece by piece. No, what we do now, our model is right now, we just go in and take everything out of the store, just gut it, do a full gut rehab. Because your value is in a few things. One, your value is in the location. If it's a location, people already know it's in the infrastructure in the sense that, all your plumbing lines are run, all of your traps, all of your electrical, all those things are already in place. Your boiler systems, your HVAC, all that infrastructure that it takes to make a laundromat work is already built. So that's the majority of what you're buying is both the kind of the goodwill that goes with the customer base in the area, as well as the, infrastructure in a store. And that's kind of what we count on when we buy a store. Outside of that, no, we just gut it and start over completely.
Okay. And then what about the real estate itself? Do you own the real estate, or you have any that you're renting, or is it a combination of both of those?
Combination. Yeah, combination. And this kind of goes back to the idea that it's a business more than it is a real estate play. So one store we own both the real estate and the business on, which is great because there's some other ancillary forms of revenue that come along with that owning of that independent location. And that's a good deal for us on that front. On the other stores, they're all leases, which is okay because if you think about it, if you're going to buy a $500,000 building, well, you're going to have to come up with $100,000 to put down at least, maybe even 150 on that as a down payment. Well, if that goes towards an operating business instead, either via equipment or some other things, you can actually turn a greater revenue or a greater profit sooner without having that idle capital tied up in a space. So it cuts both ways. But yes, the answer is I'll certainly look at both options.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. What about, and again, I know a lot of these are existing locations, but, what are you specifically looking at? Usually, just coming off the streets and looking at laundromats, it seems, a lot of them are kind of in poorer areas of town and, where they may or may not, have an in-house laundry facility, that kind of thing. So is that pretty much what you're seeing as well?
Absolutely. Laundromats thrive where laundromats are needed. You're not going to go to the high rent district, or I guess I call it the high rent district. Probably not renting, but you're not going to go to the high rent district of any city and find a laundromat. Here in Memphis, like your nice areas of town, there's two areas. One's Germantown, one's Collierville. You're not going to put laundromats in because nobody needs them. What are they going to do with a laundromat? Bring a comforter in once every year and get it washed? You're going to go broke in those areas. So yeah, you're going to be in the seedier, sketchier, tougher areas of town. But as long as you're prepared for that, we're prepared for it. I always kind of joke and say that we get to serve all of God's children, and all the attendant issues that come along with that. So just let your mind run wild, and I'm sure you're not too far off. But that's just part of what we do.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about speaking of ancillary items? Is there income in, do most people bring their own soaps and that kind of thing, or is that something that you can charge for? And if so, is it a significant amount? And then what about vending?
Yeah, I mean, so we don't. One of the things that, and I could take this answer 15 different ways. Let's see. I'll answer it directly in that we don't do. Well, we do, but not really, because I don't. It's we do a small amount of vending business, and that's only because some of the stores we have purchased came with vending machines, so it's not something I seek out. And so we'll put soda, candy. The margins on that has gone to nothing. Even buying in bulk, like if you're buying I looked at it here maybe 6 months ago. I'm like, okay, maybe we should look into this. It was like 80 cents or 85 cents now for a regular size Snickers bar in bulk. I'm like, what am I going to do? Sell that for $2? So I made $1.15. And then I got to pay to monkey with it. And then I got to fill that machine. And then when it breaks, somebody gets mad. And now they're talking to my attendant. And then they're looking for refunds. And then I'm like, that sounds like a pain in my neck.
Yeah.
So we made $30 in 30 days on a box of kids. That's not where I want my focus or our team members' focus to be. So one, if we do vending, but it's on a very small scale. We don't even really, it's a rounding error. The soap sales, on the other hand, we do quite a bit of business in, and that also is done via vending machines. So we have some pretty high end, fancy schmancy vending machines that hold all sorts of different soaps and fabric softeners and all that stuff that people can buy, and people buy a lot of that stuff. So that has margins in it that are worth messing with. So yeah, that's the answer. Hopefully it answers your question on that front.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised that some of the machines that are built specifically for laundromats don't have a dispenser, like where you could have a barrel of detergent. I guess people are particular on their detergents, and some people have skin irritations from certain ones, but seems like that would be like going back to the car wash example, I know that's a big piece of it. It's all automated with the soaps and the different things, but
and you can. I know it's out there, but you're right. Like when I drop my own laundry off, if our staff are going to do my laundry, man, I can't stand the smell of scented detergent. Like it drives me crazy. So it's like, okay, you have to, when you check it in, there's all the options. Well, do you use dryer sheets? No, because I don't want my stuff to smell like dryer sheets. And it's unscented hypoallergenic detergent. So yeah, on the drop-off laundry side of things, people can select all of those options. Okay. But then again, like you're saying on even on the self-serve side of things, if you go to our vending machine, you'll look at it, it's like, oh my gosh, that's like 40 different types of detergent I could use, because one, they like, the smell of fresh flowers. The next one wants crisp linen. And the next one wants, it's like, oh my gosh. So that said, no, we don't sell it in bulk, although you could. You certainly could sell it in bulk, and I know somebody out there has a dispenser for it. It's again something that just doesn't scale.
Yeah, makes sense. Wow, that's pretty neat. What about hours? How long are they open? And you mentioned that you have attendees. Do you have attendees at all of your units? Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, no, and that's it. Again, going back to Laundromats Thrive, where laundromats are needed. Mm-hmm. You can, and the industry standard is an unattended store. So you walk in, there's a bank of machines. It's up to you to figure it out. There might be some signs. There's probably a whole bunch of signs no one reads, but it's an unattended store. And that's one of the things we're doing, is having attendees at the stores. I say that we are always attended. That's almost, you've asked for clarification on that, which is, so there are a few select hours during the early morning that we're open from like 5 to 8 a.m. where we're unattended. We've also found that that's when the least amount of stupid things typically happen. And so people who are there at 5 a.m. are typically there to do their laundry at 5 a.m., which, believe it or not, people wait, because we have all our doors set on automatic mag locks and timers and automatic openers and all this stuff. So people stand there and wait, and they hear the buzzer click, they open the door, and they go in and start doing their laundry. So that's another thing that we've improved is access. So opposed to having stores that require somebody to go by with a key and unlock the front door, and then people are waiting there, and wait, like a store I was looking at last week, just on the due diligence side of things, supposedly it opens at 7:30. The owner told us, "Hey, go by at 7:30. Our staff will be there to let you in." 8 o'clock rolls around, 5. I'm like, okay, this is a great store to buy. These are problems that somebody could solve with a couple thousand, maybe $3,000 door opening system.
Yeah.
And suddenly people show up at 5 a.m. and get their laundry, and they do. So that's something else that we've done, is really improve the accessibility of these stores just with, again, a $3,000 door opening system, and you're off to the races.
Yeah. And so typical hours for one of your stores, what does that look like?
5 to 11. So 5 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay.
And we'll be staffed from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. So it's staffed the majority of that day.
Okay. Interesting. Let's talk maybe a little bit about, if you don't mind, getting into some of maybe the revenue side of things. I don't know how many machines are in various stores. I'm sure all that varies, but just curious, how much can a laundromat spin off as far as actual revenues?
That's a great question. It really depends on several factors. One is obviously, location is an important part of that. The size of the store matters on just how many, what we look at as turns per day on each individual piece of equipment. So it's like, okay, how many turns per day this particular piece of equipment? We put all this stuff in, we estimate how many turns per day this store could potentially do. That said, the bigger the store, I think our smallest store is 2,000 square feet. Our biggest store is 4,000 square feet. A 4,000 square foot store is a pretty big store. Actually, that's a really big store, which I like. That's my favorite store too, because people can spread out. And people like that because they can spread out, giant folding tables. They're not stepping on top of each other. Our highest grossing store is almost one of our smallest stores, though, just because it's the demographics in the area, which is something we pay a lot of attention to when looking at a store, is actually ordering demographic studies and saying, okay, is this even viable? I was looking at a store in Nashville, Tennessee here recently, and the average median income within like a mile radius was like it was almost $200,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I'm like, wait, a store that does $200,000? Like, no, like I'm not buying that store. Like that's so dumb. They don't need a laundromat in their neighborhood. It doesn't make sense. But talking about what a store can gross is really a factor of the size of that store is the primary driver, even though I just contradicted myself by saying that one of our smaller stores does really well. So, anywhere. And so you want to figure that out. So how many turns per day can it do? But we have stores that I bought a year ago, January, that were in their existing condition doing about 140 a year. We retooled one of those stores in July of last year. And so doing, I guess, 70 grand in the first 6 months of the year. And then we did about another 180 in the second 6 months of that year.
Yeah.
So you can have a meaningful increase in the way a store operates by doing all the things that we do in the laundry business. So, that store, it'll do 250. It's on track. It'll do well over 300 this year. And then some stores will do, we got one store that does over $500,000 a year. And that's just, again, that's a combination of self-serve, delivery, and drop off. And that store does a ton of drop off business as well. So that's something else that people take a lot of advantage of, is our staff are on hand. And so we kind of pay for staff through drop off. So the numbers can be all over the place, to be honest with you. But I hope that gives you some insight on what's possible inside of these stores.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's more than I would have expected. So, cool. I know it's a popular investment. It's become more and more popular as of recently. But
it is. I will, sorry to cut you off, but it is. And I was looking on our Laundromat forums group the other day, and man, the people selling the wares are just getting roasted by laundromat owners. They're like, yeah, okay, sure, such and such. I bet you can do X, Y, and Z. And I'm sure you did do $4 million a year out of your little store there. And only for your small down payment of $49,000 can you teach somebody else how to do the same thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so true. It is a long game, like all things are. It takes time and it takes money and patience to get it going. It is a popular investment, but I think it's also one of those things where it's like you just got to go in with your game face on. So A lot of the hype, I'm unfortunately here to say, is hype.
Hype, yeah. And what's interesting is a lot of the ones that I've seen, as far as people syndicating them, have been development. They're going in and completely, launching a new store. And I'm sure the expense involved with that is pretty high. I personally kind of like the idea of having an existing store and saying, well, we know we're going to do this better, and this better. And so it can only go up from here, but at least you got a baseline of revenues coming in.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's the kicker is, and we are doing a ground up development, but I will say from a speed to market thing, one is that you're right. You do have existing revenues that you can kind of look at and say, okay, this is where we are at bare minimum, and then also your speed to market factor. So we'll typically close a store for, call it 3 weeks. From the time we say, okay, we're going to go in, we're going to start the full gut rehab, and we're going to do everything from floors to paint to ceiling to light to you name it. The whole package goes through in about a 3-week window, and then we're back open. You can't do that on a brand new build. It's a 12-month process at minimum. So it's there's some advantages certainly to just retooling versus building ground up.
Are you having to come back into these existing ones and really upgrade? I know there's got to be all kinds of city codes as to what's acceptable within a laundromat. I mean, everyone I ever drive by, it's like, man, the number of vents coming out of the top of the roof is just like, it's kind of amazing. But when you're upgrading and you're taking one from where it currently is, are you having to put a lot into that kind of back end infrastructure as far as the venting and?
Hopefully not. Again, that goes back to the value. There are stores we've passed on because they were so far dilapidated that it made no sense to even. I told one guy, like, he was trying to sell. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't take it if it were free. No, this place is just nothing but trouble. And so no, the answer to your question is, yeah, a lot of that stuff we try to leave unchanged. Anything else we're doing as far as electrical or plumbing or things like that, we generally get done under a repair heading versus the alteration and or major modification heading. So we try to stay out of code's way as much as we can. Bring in licensed contractors and they're like, hey man, it's a repair. Great. Okay, well let's make a repair. Let's not go ahead and tear out the whole plumbing system and have to get a permit on this, because then that opens up a can of worms that you just don't want to get into. But if we have to, we will.
Yeah, it makes sense. How about reporting software, that kind of thing? Are you able to see what your stores are doing? It always amazes me. I've got a couple friends of mine that are in the vinyl business, and they've got the stuff that they've got it tied in. They know exactly what their store did, each day, and can kind of compare it against year over year. And how sophisticated is the software that's out there, and are you using the same ones for all of your stores?
The software is sophisticated. Direct answer. Yes, I can track everything in real time down to, I can tell you right now which machines are running at which store. I could start them remotely from my computer if I wanted to.
Oh, wow.
So there's kind of some cool, so there's some cool stuff that you can do. Am I using all of the same ones at every store? The answer is no. We have gone through a couple different. We're using the same point of sale at every store, but on there's some back end stuff that as we keep launching stores, we're like, hey, maybe we should try this one instead because we're not in love with features of that one. And so it's still a work in progress on that front. Most of our stores, the three of I should say most, like we have 100 of them. 3 of our 4 stores are all the same across the board. And our latest store, we tried a new platform on it. Loving that platform, but it's just a little slightly different. But yeah, you can see everything you want. And that's one of the reasons that your legacy owners don't do it, is because guess what? Uncle Sam can see it too. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of the point of it. I mean, we pay our taxes. It's just the way it is. Like the tax you pay is, I hate taxes, but either way, the tax we pay is fine in comparison to the amount of work it offloads. Yeah. Whereas the people that are like, man, we stay in the quarters business, you can't track that. You can't track the number of turns. You can't track how much money came in, man. That went from the change machine straight into their mattress.
Right.
And I mean, money laundering in the laundry business is a real thing.
Wow.
So, you always get the wink and a nod when you're looking at stores. You're like, well, this is what's on my tax return. And you're like, oh,
Right.
okay, sure, I got you. Anyway, so that said, yeah, there's fantastic software out there that can really make automating and running these stores just so much easier.
Yeah. What about from a lending standpoint? Is this like SBA loans? What's the best route for?
I am on my way to wrapping all of our stores up into an SBA loan. It's not done, but it's something that we are eyeballing for this year simply because we've got so much equity tied up. All of our capital, all of our CapEx has been done in equity. So we've not taken loans out on that. The only thing we've taken loans against is either one building and or equipment. So you can get great financing through the equipment manufacturers, which is really cool.
Okay.
They, of course, they get to charge, upcharge on the equipment, and then also they get to collect a premium on the, the payment that you make to them. So, that's good for them. But you can also, and the great thing about the laundry equipment manufacturers is oftentimes they'll 100% finance. So if you buy
Wow.
$500,000 in equipment, yeah, you get 100% financing through the manufacturer because they know the laundry business. The laundry industry has a 95% success rate. So 9.5 out of 10 stores do very well, which is crazy. Compare that to the restaurant industry. It's like, oh my gosh,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
you're hitting a home run with every swing. Which, again, not everything's a home run, but it would appear that way on paper. So that said, yeah, there's fantastic financing options out there. There's some other people out there that as well that understand the laundry business that will both package up your CapEx if you don't have that money, sitting in reserve. They'll package CapEx plus your equipment spend, and then those lending terms get more onerous. The more money they lend you, so
For
we
sure.
try to stay away from that. There's lots of lending. It's niche lending, but there's lots of options out there from SBA to some private lenders to manufacturers to plenty of opportunity there on the lending side.
Okay. And I know the first couple were kind of you. Are you syndicating any of these? Are you?
Yes, we are. I opened a fund last year and we
Okay.
put 2 stores in that fund, and that the fund is still open. So, but it's something where it's probably slower growth maybe than what I was hoping for. And that's okay. I'm not disappointed by it because the fund is scalable. And that's the fun thing about the laundry business is that if I have 2 stores that are doing really well, we raised enough money for 2 stores and those are doing really well. And the investors in those 2 stores are going to do just fine. We have 20 stores. Well, then we have 20 stores. We have enough investors for 20 stores. So it's a scalable model. But yeah, so we have been raising money on that laundry fund and it's going great. But it's also something that I think last year I had high ambitions. And once I really started tagging on multiple stores at a time, I was like, okay, you know what? We've got to get our systems dialed in really tight before we keep going like gangbusters. And so that's really what we spent the end of last year doing, was dialing our systems. And, we'll see. I may keep the fund open. I may close it and say, hey, look, we're going to put 3 to 5 stores in it and the rest I'm going to do on my own. I'm not quite sure where we're going to land on that at this point. But it is something we do have outside investors in several of our stores.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, I've enjoyed this. This has really opened my eyes. This is the first guest that we've had on the Wealth Flow that has been, this involved with laundry. And it's just always so fascinating to hear about these different asset classes. But Sam, how can folks find out more about you and if they wanted to connect and maybe invest with you?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can go to Bricken, it's BRICKEN investmentgroup.com. You can learn all about the laundry fund there. If you sign up there, you'll get access to our underwriting model, to our webinars, to the deal decks. You can see everything that kind of goes into the laundry fund and what we're doing on that front. You can also reach out to me, Sam at brickeninvestmentgroup.com, against BRICKEN investmentgroup.com.
Great. All right. Well, I've got 2 more questions for you if you have just another minute or so. It's 2 questions I ask every guest. And one of those is just if you were to talk with somebody who maybe is just starting out in their investment journey, what advice would you give them?
Don't do like I did. Pick one thing and stick with it until you've worn it out. I feel like I did that on single family and then kind of got distracted by shiny object syndrome as I kind of dove into commercial real estate. So I would say know one thing and know it really, really well. And once you've mastered that, then consider moving on. So that would be the one piece of advice I would give, is just stay hyper focused.
I love it. I love it. I would, I totally agree. And I've too have gotten distracted many times and it's always cost me money when I did. So,
Sure.
but, and then the other question, if you've read any books recently that have been impactful, they don't necessarily have to be real estate related, but just, anything.
Man, the one book that I really like, I think it's Howard Marks, Mastering the Market Cycle, is something that is a really good one. He goes in and he kind of takes I'm gonna make this up, but it's like a 50 or 70 year view. It's a long-term view. I'll say that. We go back to 80s and 70s data in the book. And he just kind of tells what investor psychology is and why investors make certain decisions at certain times. I'll summarize it. It's worth reading, but I'll summarize it by saying that historically people make the wrong decisions at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. Yeah. And he kind of breaks down why people make the wrong decisions at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. And so I think as any investor should read it, just to be aware of their own predispositions, because we all share, I think, the same ones, where it's like, everybody, when, times are bad, everybody's afraid. Like, okay, well, why is that? And he kind of breaks it down. You're like, oh, wait. So the point here is that anyway, read the book. I'll do a disservice if I keep talking, but Mastering the Market Cycle by Howard.
Okay. No, I have not had that recommendation. So I've got that one down, and well, if it's on Audible, I'll get it on Audible, but if not, I'll order it. So, all right. Well, fantastic. Sam, I've enjoyed our time together. I really appreciate all the insight that you've given us. And I think we'll call it a show.
Sounds great, Keith. Thanks so much for having me on. I certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Being that you're still here, I trust you found value in this episode. I personally wish I would have known these guests and strategies when I started my wealth creation journey. Go to wealthflow.capital to subscribe to our newsletter. And as a free gift, we will send you our quarterly market report and the top 10 things to look for in an investment opportunity. Take a minute to give our show a rating and review. Help us reach 1 million professionals by subscribing and sharing this episode with someone you know who could also find value in it.